In a world where the forces of evil have struck every corner of the realm, an orphaned blue-haired prince is raised by his elderly mentor, taking up the sword and liberating provinces with his merry band of allies, cutthroats, and mercenaries alike as he takes back his birthright. What? No, this isn't Fire Emblem. It's Unicorn Overlord, developed by Vanillaware and published by Sega. Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel, and today we are going to be talking about Unicorn Overlord, a game that surprised me in just how much I came to enjoy it, surpassing even highly expectant titles of 2024 such as Metaphor Refantasio in my eyes. I truly believe that the everyday strategy RPG enthusiast would have a field day going to town with what this game offers, and I hope that in discussing and reviewing Unicorn Overlord, I may convince or at least bring to your attention a title that may not have been on your radar or at least push the game further up your backlog. This video will not contain any major story spoilers by any means either. Now, just before we begin, as always, if you enjoy this video, I'd highly encourage you to give it a like, let me know what your thoughts are down below, and subscribe for more RPG and general gaming content. Every little thing truly makes a difference and is always greatly appreciated. And with that out of the way, let's get stuck in. Now, by no means was my opening of this video a mocking exaggeration. Rather, the bulk of this game's focus around our main protagonist Elaine really does end up feeling a little like Fire Emblem. Stowed away in secrecy away from the mainland, we see our protagonist grow into adulthood, trained daily since his youth, and the conquest of his homeland by the traitor General Galerius. Accompanied by childhood friends Lex, Chloe, and Scarlet, and under the tutelage of the paladin Joseph, the town at one point becomes besieged by the former loyal knight Hodrick, who can't seem to be reasoned with. In the midst of trying to reason with him, however, Elaine's ring, a keepsake from his family, sheds off a curse controlling Hodrick's mind. With the realization that many citizens still oppose Galerius' rule, and that even some of his generals and commanders are coerced into pushing his evil agenda, Elaine can no longer stand idly by, and thus the Liberation Army is formed.
The people of Cornea are suffering, crying out for whatever help will hear their pleas. Should I turn a deaf ear to those voices, I would have little and less claim to the crown I feel is mine. That, and I owe it to my mother to see them safe. We march to vanquish Galerius and free all nations of Fevrith alike.
From then on, we enter the standard gameplay routine of venturing across the open world, reaching new towns and territories, and liberating them in a multi-continental crusade to restore the realm. Along the way, we recruit knights, vagabonds, nobility, and former enemies alike, and while this does feel all very straightforward of a tactical RPG, I will say that there are some small story and world-building elements in each major zone that start to fill out larger puzzles going on than what the basic premise sets up, and that by the end of the game, I felt that the world of Unicorn Overlord was quite fitting and a good bit more fleshed out than I had been led to expect. Many of the characters themselves are also very well written, despite often fitting into trope-like narratives, and the characters are especially expanded on with heart-to-heart conversations that unlock as your party members fight alongside one another or share meals. One of my favorite examples is our paladin Joseph, who whisked Elaine to safety, and would otherwise be relegated as the titular stronger old knight starting character. Well, Joseph has many stories where he expresses his uncertainties. Did he do the right thing? Should he have disobeyed orders and fought for his queen's sake? And while Elaine sees him as a fatherly figure, he himself does not feel worthy of the credit, so strong is the guilt that weighs upon his consciousness from that fateful day. Other characters like Aramis, Berengaria, Ridiel, and Fudokia, to name a few, all have great premises. Even Lex has a few earnest heart-to-hearts that make him a little bit more than just the protagonist's tag-along friend. The core gameplay loop then centers around three core aspects: open-world exploration, battles, and character building. Open-world exploration revolves around, well, exploring every nook and cranny for resources, coming across open-world quests, and dealing with scouts. Personally, I love how the open world blends seamlessly into combat situations, with towns and fortress cities serving as spawn points that you can place your units to hold and defend. You can use the terrain in a lot of situations to their advantage, placing items like mines or barricades to make it trickier for the enemies to approach, though of course your choice of placement may hinder you as well. The sense of making risky gambits feels fantastic when you make the ploys of rushing your units over before reinforcements arrive, or when you try to circumvent some sentry units or a group of archers that are holding a scouting tower. There's no set path either in how you approach many of the scenarios, and even the overworld itself provides some choices in choosing which parts to progress. Unfortunately, almost all scenarios have the exact same completion prerequisite, and while there are a handful of unique objectives, I was overall hungry for more variety. Upon entering combat, however, we get a glimpse of the gorgeous artwork as we change from the overworld sprite art to clean and phenomenally done combat animations. At this point, I realize I've not yet discussed the artwork or music, but I feel that this does not need much explanation on my part as to why I enjoy them. The sprite work is a good nod to the tactics games of old, and the primary artwork and animations during cutscenes and combat are fantastic. Accompanied with an array of themes for each zone during Overworld, chapters, and combat, and Vanillaware's art and music team continue to show off their prowess. And despite having most enemies share models and rigs with the main party, they did an excellent job in uniquely designing the primary cast. And not only do they look good, but they also feel good to use as well. I called this the Tactician's Game of the Year for a reason. Combat is a good bit more than just rock, paper, scissors, with dozens upon dozens of classes, each with their own enhanced roles to pick up and mess around with, and the same could be said for the enemy as well, providing a complex range of team compositions with unique ways to encounter and defeat. There's no fear of permadeath either, so your work does not go to waste. Reposition your party members in designated groups of up to 5 to take the upper hand. Do you take out the backline with an archer, or should you send in an armored infantry unit to soak up the hits? Maybe send in the cavalry with their ability to pierce enemy rows and skewer the backline one by one. For me, I personally ran teams that centered around the core members of each faction, be it a lane with Joseph and supported by Scarlet and the witch Yana, or with Princess Virginia being accompanied by her attending knights. Of course, you don't have to build them thematically, and you can go off of whatever style you feel fit. And if you'd like to have more than just what the main story sends your way, the mercenary system allows you to pick up additional units of certain classes with just as good a stat spread as the main cast, so you can go absolutely nuts in creating the perfect roster of classes and roles. But that's not all. Each character can equip initially 3 and then up to 4 pieces of gear that honestly are quite versatile. Sure, you have the usual stat-stick pieces of gear, but there are also some special weapons as well as class-specific equipment with unique elements or abilities that really add on to the mix and match playstyle. But it does not even end there, as you can specifically choose what offensive and passive abilities your characters will utilize in combat and in what order your character will use said abilities. To really cap all of this off, most gear equips naturally have pathways to provide higher stats, the shops have plenty of useful items in demand, and there's even a smith in the late game that can upgrade all of your old weapons, making every unique weapon completely relevant to mess around with in the end game. When it comes to character and party building and player expression through said avenues, very few games have scratched that itch for me as Unicorn Overlord did. Even then, there are other features this game hosts that really just add that little bit of quality. For one, if you feel daunted by the myriad of classes, or say you had to drop the game for a little bit and felt lost when you returned, there's a giant, constantly updated library of tutorials and class details. You can even click on the keywords in a section you're looking at to be directed to see more. The menu also sports other nice features, such as a character model viewer where you can see each character's individual animations. Lastly, there are other aspects of the world that helped it feel a bit more vibrant, though not by too much. Each zone hosts a handful of quests, and certain story-based characters all have their own subquests within each region. That being said, many of the quests all play out exactly the same, though the rewards do improve with each new continent. Once you complete the quests in Continent A though, you should know exactly what to expect in Continent B, and so on. There is a mining minigame in each region that was a little bit fun, but dragged on quite a little too long to receive all the rewards and items. The Kingdom of Drakenhold, however, hosts a Colosseum mode with online functionality, letting you test your own team comps against other players online. If you climb the offline Colosseum ranking, though, it provides you with unique currency that you can exchange for excellent rewards, and completing it even offers a powerful and unique character to add to your ranks. Aside from these things, however, there isn't all too much variety until you reach the late and post-game, offering you a few additional challenges for even more powerful rewards. With all of this being said though, the true bread and butter of this game lies in character customization, team building, and how you approach each combat scenario. The quality of life afforded to individual character setup cannot be understated, and seeing how everything unfolds on the battlefield is one of my favorite experiences that Unicorn Overlord has offered to me. I hope to one day return to the game when I have the chance to do a rerun on the highest difficulty, True Zenoiren. But that's where I am going to be calling it on this video. Thank you very much for watching, but please let me know, did this convince you to give Unicorn Overlord a shot? Have you played the game, and if so, what are your favorite aspects or characters? Is there anything that you disagree with here? Please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for your time, and as always, have a great day.